welcome to this video. I hope that this video will help you to support your mentees when they are dealing with challenging situations. This video focuses on race and racism, but the tools you will learn are applicable in just about any scenario. And even if your mentee is white, these tools can help them be more mindful humans and hopefully minimize the harm they may cause to their peers of color. But before we get into the content, let us take a moment to acknowledge that this is the historic homeland of the Abenaki people. Their presence began before colonial rule and continues here despite it. Our understanding of their lives must be broader than white supremacy and colonial interference. Vermont's Indigenous peoples continue to celebrate their cultures, advocate for themselves, and encourage all of us to reflect on the history of this land. In this moment, I invite you to reconnect with the land you call home, to think about what it means to you, to generations past and present, and to appreciate everything it gives you. I also invite you to consider how you can work collectively and individually to protect and support not only this land, but also Indigenous people and their fight for the visibility and justice they have long been denied. Before we can talk about how to support youth experiencing racism, we have to understand what racism is. In his book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, Ibram X. Kendi defines racism as a powerful collection of racist policies that lead to racial inequities and are substantiated by racist ideas. In her book, So You Want to Talk About Race, Ijoma Oluo defines racism as any prejudice against someone because of their race, when those views are reinforced by systems of power. The central idea of both definitions is that racism is contingent upon actions or thoughts contributing to the larger systemic oppression and discrimination of a group of people. TikTok user Chin for Short explains this difference in a video they posted in June.
Just hear me out. If you're a Democrat or left-leaning in general, what is your most conservative view?
So this goes back to something I said in a previous video, but I think that you can be racist to white people. But I think that racism towards white people is essentially no more harmful than bullying, which I do not condone. Think of it like this. If every person of color in a position of social, economical, or political power started trying to discriminate against white people, today, most white people would be fine, because most of those positions in our society are occupied by white people. White people control the government. White people control the economy. White people control housing. White people would continue to thrive just the same. But if the opposite were to happen, as we've seen in recent history, not only would it be incredibly difficult for people of color to survive, but white people would use their resources to eradicate any chance we had of uplifting ourselves. White people hold too much power in this society to be truly oppressed. So white racism is basically just bullying, which I don't condone.
So, your mentee comes to you with an issue they're facing. What do? Our instinct when people confide in us is to search for a solution, but that isn't always the appropriate response. So what else can we do? One thing we can do is engage in active listening. What is active listening? Active listening encourages you to hold back your thoughts and opinions and listen carefully to what the other person is saying with your full attention. You are not listening to respond, you are listening to understand and learn. By focusing on listening rather than responding, active listening allows us to eliminate the burden to respond immediately or have the right answer. It also allows the speaker to know that they will not receive any judgment or unwanted advice. Let's do the following activity. We're going to take 3 minutes to do some journaling on the following prompts. 1. What are your thoughts on active listening? 2. Have there been times where you did or didn't engage in active listening with your mentee? How did that go? What do you think the impact of that situation was? And 3, if you have not yet met with your mentee, have there ever been times where engaging in active listening could have made you feel more seen or supported? The clock will tick down 3 minutes and then we'll be back to this video. Another helpful tool is critical reflection. Critical reflection asks us to think about our practices and ideas, and then it challenges us to step back and examine our thinking by asking probing questions. The three probing questions are: what? What is the problem? And what are the facts around this problem? So what? So what does this all mean? What is the impact? And now what? Now, what do we do about it? I highly recommend checking out the critical reflection video by Ocean School to learn more about critical reflection. You can find the link to that video in the description of this video. One thing that we should constantly be reflecting on is our role in the fight against injustice. Ask yourself, would you consider yourself to be an ally to people of color? And if so, what does that mean? If you want to be an ally to people of color, it involves much more than just agreeing that injustice is wrong. It requires more than thought. It requires action. Do you speak up when it's uncomfortable, or when you might potentially be risking something, like a friendship or another close relationship? Do you seek out education and information on your own rather than relying on the people of color around you? Do you not expect a pat on the back for doing the right thing? Do you center voices of color over your own? If not, what steps can you take to do these things? So, you've done some reflection and you find that you need to act. What now? Here are some things you can do. Be ready. Be familiar with words or actions, whether they're subtle or overt, that can counteract, change, or stop the behavior. Get consent. See what the victim wants or needs. Sometimes stepping in can make a situation worse for the victim, so your help must be wanted. Identify problems out loud. Describe the behavior candidly so the aggressor hears what they did. Avoid labeling the person, though. Talk about their actions, not necessarily their character. Set boundaries. Make your boundaries clear and follow through. For example, you can say, if you keep yelling at me, I will end the conversation. Appeal to principles. Point out the disparity between their words and their personal character. So if you have a relationship with this person where you know that the things that they are doing are not in line with their personal values, point it out. Ask for help. Seek support from others. You are not Superman. You cannot solve every problem yourself. It is more than okay to ask for help when you need it. Let's consider a scenario. A mentor is having a conversation with a mentee of color. The mentee says that they do not want to be friends with another kid because the other kid is racist. Let's take 2 minutes to journal from the perspective of the mentor having the conversation with the youth. You are the mentor, and you want to be supportive of your mentee. What do you do? Let's take another 2 minutes to journal from the perspective of another mentor that overhears the conversation. You notice that rather than supporting the mentee, the mentor challenges them and focuses on how serious the allegation is. What do you do? Let's take 2 minutes to journal. You may not always know what to say. Even if you practice, you may still feel unprepared to take on a situation. And that's okay. The important thing is that you don't let fear keep you from acting. Sometimes your attempts to do the right thing might end with you causing harm. And while harm is never okay, understand that we are all human, so we will make mistakes. However, the real indication of our character is not whether we accidentally cause harm or not, but what we do when we learn that we have caused harm. So, here are some things that I hope you'll take away from this video. Do always try your best and fix harm that you cause. Don't let your fear of failure stop you from speaking up or supporting a victim. Know that you are not an expert and you will make mistakes. Be humble, an ally for all people of color in your life, and a champion for anti-racism.